So let us just go back to the presentation then, where we look at some of these aspects of digital collaboration outlined in the GIST framework. So firstly, distance. Diagrams.net is browser-based, can be accessible to anyone with an internet connection worldwide. The language and linguistics aspect, as I said, it's available in multiple languages. Community can contribute to the language library as well. The technical and intellectual ability, there's a very large sort of spectrum, you can say, of sort of technical and more simpler ways of developing charts. You can do a very simple chart, but you can also quite complex. So there's quite a nice spectrum there as well. In terms of the social, and also on top of the technical side, you can also make a simple interface for the whole website as well, just to kind of take away the noise. If you want to do if you're, for example, teaching to primary school children, you might want to make a very simplified interface. The final aspect of social and cultural aspects, kind of a little bit more subjective and difficult to quantify there. There's not a huge amount of research in terms of digital collaboration aspects of social and cultural aspects of digital collaboration, but that's something that could be explored in more detail. Finally, or pretty much finally, before we have a little bit of critical perspective, I just wanted to link this back to Bloom's taxonomy to understand how this tool facilitates digital collaboration. If we start first with creating, this tool can facilitate group work and help students to create shared visual representations of their ideas. Students can work collaboratively and create original content. From an evaluation perspective, evaluating students facilitates students' ability to evaluate and critique each other's work, for example, using comment features to share their diagrams in discussion forums, and to convey and discuss the effectiveness of their visual designs. And then finally, analyzing. Diagrams.net helps students analyze complex information, for example, by using network diagrams to outline connections and relationships between entities, thus making it easier to identify trends and patterns. So just a little bit of critical perspective. We've outlined some of the positive aspects in terms of multiple language support. There's also a light and dark mode, which can be good for the visually impaired. Commenting, that's a good aspect of digital collaboration. We can have peer review. We can also share our diagrams. But there are some drawbacks of this tool in terms of digital collaboration. For example, you cannot toggle the font sizes. You'll see this on, for example, the UK government website. You can just toggle to a large font size for the visually impaired. There are no colorblind friendly design standards. Also, the parent company which owns this website, they do not report on their diversity. This is quite an important part of inclusive software design. And finally, this is not visually shareable. So it's only visually shareable. So you wouldn't be able to, for example, talk to the people if you're collaborating with, unless you're using some other sort of software. Yeah, so at this point, I would just like to open up the floor and discuss a couple of points related to this in terms of what are your experiences so far with digital collaboration, and how might your perspective of software accessibility changed?
I'm supposed to be quiet here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Nola.
I think this was just an excellent micro teaching session that we might have to ask you if we can use it as a future demo. But anyway, I really liked how you brought in the whole aspect of digital collaboration, specifically with this tool, in a way that I probably wouldn't have, and many others wouldn't thought about. What led you into thinking about this? Just curious.
I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was actually what kicked it off was I think it was this the report on, I think that was the original report, was the GISC.
Yes.
I think the definition of digital collaboration, and then it starts to talk about these breaching of boundaries and differences. And so I think that was probably the kicking point where I thought, oh, hang on a second. So social and cultural aspects of collaboration, technical and intellectual aspects of collaboration. I think that was the bit where I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. I'm going to dive into that a bit more.
Yes, I found that fascinating at the beginning. Thank you for drawing that out.
Mm-hmm.
Nora, any questions?
Yeah, I was a bit unsure whether we're discussing the just basically like our own experience or just related to the presentation, because I found actually the tool itself really interesting, and also teaching online. I found it interesting also to think about it in this context of like inclusivity, and it's actually something in some ways that I've never thought about. I never thought about in what ways some students, like for example, also the possibility of working in different languages or something like this. I never thought about that this could happen in an online space. And also, yeah, the aspects of diversity, like the font size and easy language or colorblind aspects. I think I also never considered, and I think actually just made me think that it's worth thinking about this when you use online tools.
Yeah, and your links to employability, that really, you've got us thinking, William, and that's great. Well, one quick question. How do you access diagrams.net again?
Yep, so it's just they changed their name recently, but you can just put in diagrams.net and that should take you off to it. I think that used to be called draw.io, but I think that will also link you to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this could be also an alternative free mind mapping tool?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow. Great.
Yeah, it's really, really great as a tool. I think I'm going to implement it.
Yeah, the more I researched the company as well, the more I was like, okay, they really have a mission. One of the quotes that was quite interesting, I didn't talk about it, but in this, they quote this thing that diagramming software generates over $1 billion annually, and yet it's a core requirement of daily business function. And I thought that was quite an interesting, because their kind of business model is basically to disrupt that. Like, these kind of software is necessary to work. And so like stopping people having access to this kind of tools is kind of a big problem. So yeah, they seem quite like a interesting company as well, at trying to sort of, yeah, make good tools accessible to everyone.
Love it. I've just, well, Liz, we've just been like pricing out different software tools, and for mind mapping tools, I mean, this one looks like it seems pretty user friendly, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I use it in my introduction to databases course. Yeah, I think it's a great tool.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be quiet now.
Yeah, any further comments or questions from Nora?
No, I think it was all clear and just, yeah, inspiring.
Okay, that's good. Then I'll just wrap up with some summary and outcomes. So yeah, firstly, it's important to develop awareness of the differences in your classroom, whether they be cultural differences, differences in ability, whatever those might be. Think outside the box of what those differences could be, and if people can feel excluded in any way. On top of this, understand the affordances of the digital tools you are using, but also understand the limitations of those tools to understand where they might not be so well applied. And finally, promote the usage of tools which contribute to the inclusion and improved collaboration. Otherwise, I'd like you to, just a list of references, I'd like to thank you for joining me in this session, and wish you best of luck in your exploration of further digital tools.